When you go to a kebab shop and you see this type of meat, it makes you really hungry. But it seems like this guy couldn't control himself. Sometimes security cameras catch something that's actually really funny. Right here, this guy is using a barrel or a kick to break a glass window to get inside. But instead of reaching in and opening it with the handle, he climbs inside. This woman put a 24-pack of soda in her dress. This guy stole a 12-pack of beer and he wants to run inside his friend's car to get away, but an accident takes place. This guy put on a necklace and he tried to run away with it, but he didn't know the owner put electronic locks. This is what we call a walk of shame. This guy seems like he really likes this bike and he has plans to steal it, but he doesn't have enough time. Maybe this guy should practice pulling out his weapon instead of doing this. Just look how he kicks the door when he runs out. They brought him into an interrogation room, but since there's no police, he makes a run for it. Sometimes when you're nervous, it seems like the simplest thing doesn't work. This guy has to click a button to very gently open the door. This guy thought he could pull a quick one. He tried to steal an expensive bicycle. Usually thieves take a door out to steal what's inside, but it seems like this guy needed this garage door. Even the dog is confused what this guy is doing. He stole a TV from somebody's porch, but he didn't realize it doesn't fit inside his car. These criminals didn't know that the glass they use in jewelry store is bulletproof, let alone hammer-proof. This guy went to the drive-thru to get his food, but since he realized the cashier walked away, he tried to steal the cashier's drawer, but he didn't realize that the drawer is too big for it to come out the window. This guy really needs a mattress, so he decides to steal one. I don't know if you call this dumb or smart. This guy stole this car, but he didn't have a key, so he made his friend push him out of there. The first guy wanted to take a bite, but it seems like this guy wants the whole skewer, but he doesn't know that it's extremely hot. This guy ran his car through the Apple store and tried to steal all the display phones. This guy comes down from the ceiling, but unfortunately, all doors are locked from both sides, so he can't escape. All this guy wanted was a Pepsi, but all the doors are locked. Literally used his kid as a human shield to steal this laptop. Some people have no shame. This person decides to steal something that's not that valuable, but it's kind of funny. These guys are trying to rob a restaurant, but it seems like they think they're commandos. This guy stole some money, but he forgot that he put it in his scarf, so the wind takes it all. This couple really needed this chair for their front yard, so they stole it. This guy thought stealing a laptop is very easy, but he forgot that they use extremely heavy wire to lock them up. These two are stealing shoes from these people's front porch, but they don't realize they're being recorded. This guy is smarter. He's using a shield so you don't see his face, but it seems like he was very curious, so eventually he shows his face. Maybe they should plan a little bit better, because this window is leading to nowhere. These two entered this electronics store to rob it, but the owner is outside and he closes the gate on them. Maybe one of the easiest catch for the police. This guy wanted to rob this place, so he decided to put a plastic bag over his face. But it's very transparent because you could clearly see his face. They break the glass to enter the store to rob it, but they struggle on the way out. This guy is a genius. He chains up an ATM machine to steal it and have all the cash to himself. But he forgets that they tie these down with 12-inch studs, so it's extremely hard to pull it out. A truck won't be able to do it, but something like this might. You can find plenty of these videos. This woman decided to rob this house with a mask, but it seems like she got too hot under there, so she decides to show herself. This guy is trying very hard to steal a gumball machine, something that's not worth that much. He went to a police station where there's a bicycle tied up, and he decides to take it, but he doesn't know there's cameras everywhere and they arrest him easily. The other guys wanted to break the glass with hammers. This guy is using a piece of rock. This is a group of thieves. Two of them distract the store owner, while one of them steals everything, but you could clearly see their faces in the cameras. This guy enters the store underneath the fence, but he doesn't realize that once you get in, you can't get out the same way, so he gets caught very easily. This dude has his hands on his back, acting like it's a gun, and he's trying to rob this store. This guy just wants this TV from this lobby. He's struggling, so his friends come and help. They break the TV and decide to leave it and book it. He didn't realize that this vending machine is very heavy and it drops on him. Sometimes you can't even trust your neighbors. He stole his neighbor's package and he got caught while doing it. He didn't pay for his subway ticket, so he's running away, but he picks the wrong escalator because the police is just waiting for him down there. This guy thought this is an old Porsche convertible, so he can easily steal it. So he cuts the roof and gets inside, but he realizes it's harder than it looks, so he leaves. This dude wanted to rob this house, but he didn't realize that they have two dogs in the backyard. He's regretting that decision right about now. Just like we said, one of the many important things the moon does is keep the Earth's tilt at a certain area. And this is one of the most important things that keeps a stable climate for planet Earth. And if the moon is gone, you really can't say the North Pole is gonna be cold always. Or maybe the Middle East is gonna be ice cold now. So it basically messes up everything on Earth. So let's get back to the original situation we wanted to explain to you guys. Replace the Earth with each planet of the solar system. We're gonna go one by one, but let's talk about one that hasn't been in the solar system for about 15 years now. The last planet, which was removed in 2006, called Pluto, which is now a dwarf. We first are going to talk about Pluto replacing the moon. The sizes of Pluto and the moon are actually very similar, but Pluto is a teeny bit smaller. And because it's smaller, it also has a lower gravitational pull. So even though it has replaced the moon and it's similar, but it's still not going to keep Earth at its true axis, and it's going to wobble a lot more. Pluto counteracts a little bit of it, but the Earth is still gonna be a terrible show. There's gonna be tsunamis everywhere. There are storms everywhere, and you have tornadoes that lift off semi-trucks. there are floods, don't even get started on snow, and many more. But let's get back to the beginning of the solar system and start from the very first planet, Mercury. The cool thing is that Mercury looks very similar to our moon, but it's 1.5 times bigger. And that also means its gravitational pull is greater. But with all that combined, it could keep a balanced Earth and it could stay at its axis. But because it has a greater gravitational pull, the tides are going to be much more violent, so more ups and downs. Either way, if you replace Mercury with the moon, that's probably going to be the best planet of the solar system to replace it with, because everything after this is gonna turn Earth into a hellhole. So let's go to the next planet. Planet Venus. First of all, Venus is much brighter than any other planet, so it's gonna remove the night sky. And the reason for that is the surface of it reflects 60% of the sun's rays. So basically at night, when you see Venus, it's gonna light up the sky like the sun itself. But this is the least of our worries, because Venus is 3.5 times the size of the moon, and it's very similar in size to planet Earth itself. And that means it's not going to be a moon of the Earth anymore. They are going to start revolving around each other. Scientists and astrophysicists believe when two planets lock into each other like this with this type of orbit, they are eventually going to crash into each other. So that's what's gonna happen with Earth and Venus. Basically, if you replace Venus with Earth, you can say goodbye to life on Earth. Venus is very dangerous and we can't deal with it. So let's go to the next planet after Earth, Mars. A planet that is much smaller than Earth, and it only has 38% of Earth's gravity. So if it's replaced with the moon, it has to listen to planet Earth now because it's much weaker, and it will have to revolve around planet Earth. The worst thing Mars is gonna do to planet Earth is that it's going to ruin ocean currents all over the planet, and it's going to cause tsunamis. If tsunamis are not present, there's gonna be ginormous waves. We don't want Mars either, so let's go to the next beautiful planet after Earth, Saturn. When Saturn replaces the moon in the night sky, it's going to be extremely beautiful, but there won't be anyone to see it, because much before this planet replaced this area, it has already ruined the entire ecosystem and life on Earth. So the Saturn has replaced the moon's spot, but that's not gonna make it revolve around Earth. Saturn is too powerful for that. Now the Earth is the slave of this planet, and it has to revolve around it. So our planet basically becomes another one of Saturn's moons. Saturn's gravitational pull is so powerful that it keeps moving the planet up and down, and that means the interior of it is always being stretched. And when you stretch it this much, it causes a lot of heat, causing the planet itself to heat up. So the planet is going to be a hell. This is just Saturn. I'm terrified to see what would happen if we'd replace the moon with Jupiter, the biggest planet of the solar system. If Jupiter replaces the moon, it's going to be 41 times larger. And that means you're gonna see more Jupiter than the sky. But just like Saturn, there's not gonna be anybody to see it. Everybody's gonna be dead. So the Earth is just gonna turn into another one of Jupiter's moons, and it's going to be violated on the daily. The gravitational pull of Jupiter is so great that it stretches the planet so hard that it turns into an oval. Stretching a planet this much that it turns into an oval is not simple. It basically stretches the interior of it. And that means the surface of this planet, it's only gonna be molten lava. And Earth is gonna be just like 4 billion years ago, a burning piece of rock. So is it over? No, there's 2 more planets, Uranus and Neptune. It's interesting to note the name of these 2 planets were set much later than the other planets of the solar system, because a lot of astrophysicists and astronomers didn't even know their existence. These 2 are very similar in size, and their gravity is very similar as well. When you replace the moon with them, they're going to be around 15 times larger than the moon. It's going to be beautiful in the night sky, but there won't be any life on Earth to see the beauty. These 2, just like the other gas giants, are gonna push and pull on planet Earth and turn it into a lava pit hellhole. And once again, planet Earth has turned into the moon of these gas giants. Uranus and Neptune are not as powerful to turn the planet into an oval, but they're gonna completely change the tectonic plates and move the continents around with the oceans. We want to see some workers get caught doing something embarrassing or terrible, and it's caught on camera. I hope you guys find this entertaining. In some pizza places, they like to play with the dough, but let's see what happened. There's a customer at the front door and this guy wants to go open the door, but he doesn't realize that he's blocked with glass as well. People that have worked with forklift know this, that if you lift something heavier than the forklift itself, this will happen. Have you ever played dominoes? This is a door selling business, and this guy trips and falls. Our friend over here is driving uphill and he doesn't realize that everything is falling out the back. He just feels the back end getting lighter and lighter. We don't know what this worker is doing. He's burying himself in cement. We hope before it gets hard he gets out of there. This is what we call Canadian engineering. Turning quick without strapping it down. He was not ready for that water pressure. It seems like his fifth wheel either failed or he just let go of the trailer. He probably didn't close it correctly. There is a lot of shopping carts here and it's all in the back of his trailer. It seems like he's trying to ditch and dash. It seems like this FedEx employee was extremely pissed off that day. After FedEx saw this video, he was fired. This employee tries to install something, but he ruptures a water pipe. Glass is strong, but not this strong. All she did was try to help, let's be honest. When they are offering free haircuts, there's probably something sketchy going on. All she wanted was a soda. It seems like this driver didn't strap this thing down properly. Even if he didn't strap it down, he could have put it in gear and pulled the handbrake, but they didn't, and two expensive things are completely destroyed. Workers when there is no manager around. When the manager shows up. If you hold two strong pressure washers, you can actually fly, but not controllable. Our friend here is bringing a wedding cake. Maybe he's thinking about how good the wedding cake looks and he wants to have a bite. But this is how he eats it. I don't know what kind of fish this guy caught, but it completely shattered everything. When you tell an amateur to bring him a bottle of champagne, this is what's gonna happen.
He needs some milk!
When you wait 30 minutes for your pizza and this happens, this is why you're sitting there for 3 hours and your food is still not ready. When a mixer is backing up and you get in front of it. All he wanted to do was to change the AC vent. We've seen a lot of photos where there's a lot of fish in the middle of the street. And this is probably what happens before. When you accidentally hit the dump button instead of putting it down. The guy in the orange bandana acts like he's working. When you buy paint, make sure the cap is on correctly. Have you guys ever seen sewer tanks? Well, they have to fill them up in places. But this employee takes the hose off too quickly. This dude didn't realize that a shower curtain holder is not strong. He thought he could do a pull-up on it. Never go up a ladder that's not protected. This driver thought he had it, but he didn't see that fire hydrant. The rider didn't see it, and the security guard wasn't having any of it. He got on his very fast vehicle and started chasing. You can wheelie with tractors too. How to properly take down a wall. All he wanted to do is have dinner early tonight. Wait. When you're daydreaming and don't look in front of you. I don't know if this guy thinks he's Hercules, but he thought he could hold this thing. All I can say is that guy controlled it very well. I thought he was a professional at first, then he caught the saw wire. At least his fingers are good. When you're digging into the ground and you hit a water pipe, I don't know who told them they could roll a brick wall. The master here told him to hold it. This guy tried to be cute for the news anchor, but this happens. It's early in the morning, can you really blame the guy? He wants to widen the forklift to go under the car.
Huh?
This might be the most selfish driver I've ever seen in my life. When you don't know how much weight you can raise with your crane. I don't know who told him this crane can lift the excavator. When you make a wild pig angry, this is what happens. What you're seeing is a roll of steel, but this guy leaned it like this, and he hits the brakes very hard, and see what happens to his own truck. All she was trying to do is text her friend back next to the fryer. A trash can that doesn't listen to anybody. At the end, he even slaps the owner in the face. When you get home and you're extremely angry, some of these reefer trailers have hooks where you can hang a lot of meat and they could withstand it. But it seems like this driver made his custom trailer that couldn't hold this much meat, and it all fell apart. When you try to show off to your homies, then this happens. This guy saw those gas prices and he couldn't wait any longer. When you buy your first 4x4, this is why the roof of a forklift is extremely strong. The driveway is like glass, but this guy knows how to control his body. Thank God no cars came around the corner. When the foundation of the road has nothing under it. We got a mouse in this guy's shop, but he realizes that there is a cat and tries to escape. He gets inside the owner's shirt, but he notices and throws him off, and eventually the cat caught him, the best domesticated hunter. This driver was recently hired, that is why he didn't know how high the van went. This cow didn't want to stay in the barn because it felt like a prison. When you handle stone like this, you have to be extremely careful because workers have lost their fingers because of this. A normal day in Thailand. When someone enjoys their job a little too much. When you drop your mom's favorite cabinet. He tried to give him a tip, but he got hit with a splash of water. I don't know what this guy is doing. He could just go under it in 1 second. That wall was recently built, by the way. You guys might be familiar with this 11'8" bridge, which is very famous in the US. Throughout its history, a lot of trucks have hit it, and that is why there is a camera dedicated just for that. But let's see what happens to this Penske truck. Million years ago, the earth looked like this. All the lands were connected to one another, and there really wasn't any islands. So the earth was basically a giant piece of land and a giant ocean. Everybody knows the land is Pangea, and the ocean also has a name called Panthalassa. So put on your seatbelts, we want to go to another universe. A place where the earth looked like what it looked like 300 million years ago. If this actually happens, you could drive a car from Iran all the way to Argentina and then to Antarctica. When scientists examined the breakup of the supercontinent Pangaea, they realized how effective it was for living things and how it helped them evolve. A lot of scientists also believe if Pangaea didn't actually break up, we wouldn't have a lot of animals we have today, especially humans. But since this video is just for fun, we're not really gonna get into the science. So we're living like 2023 but in Pangaea. As you can see in the supercontinent, North America and Europe are connected, and South America and Africa are connected in the southern part, while Asia is above all them, and they are all connected to each other. It's interesting to note that India is its own continent at this stage, and it's not connected to Asia. India is here, that's connected to Antarctica and Australia, but after millions of years it starts moving and crashes itself into Asia, and because of this, the Himalayas mountain range is created. But how's the weather here? Are we gonna have some fun? The edges of the supercontinent is like a forest, and you could compare it to the Amazon rainforest. But the more you move inland, the drier the weather gets, and the drier it gets, the warmer and hotter it gets. The supercontinent is so large that the clouds cannot reach inland, and before they moved inland, they would already start raining, so the clouds wouldn't go there, and that is why all the forests were next to the ocean. So this shows us that this supercontinent has a lot of useless land, and it mostly consists of deserts. If you've seen the movie Mad Max, it probably looked like that. But let's go to modern day Russia in Pangaea and see what's happening. Can we go skiing there? 300 million years ago, Russia is basically the North Pole of the planet. But even with all that, it doesn't even have a centimeter of snow because the Earth has gotten extremely hot around this time, and you really couldn't find hot weather in Pangaea. Antarctica is not cold either. Antarctica has Australia and India next to it, and it's still extremely hot. There isn't a lot of useful land, there is very little different animals, and it's either desert or forest. And because of all these things, animal diversity was extremely low, and there was only a select few. At this time, there aren't a lot of different types of animals living, and there's still about 60 million years until we see the first dinosaur. But let's not forget, we are in Pangaea in modern day in 2023, and the animals that live with us today are gonna be there. Most of the animals are gonna have a bad time, and they will be extinct extremely quickly. First of all, the animals that are considered prey. Like if you've seen our video about goats on our channel, you know how much rabbits and goats are in Australia. And the reason that nobody gets rid of them is because there's no predator that could kill them, like a wolf or a tiger. But if all the lands are connected to each other, these animals are gonna go crazy and find all the prey they can. But unfortunately, they will be extinct as well. You guys know where the US is located. One side we got the Atlantic, the other side we have the Pacific. But in Pangaea, the east coast is connected to West Africa, and there is no more ocean anymore. If we still have today's governments, there's gonna be a lot of commotion in these types of borders, because a lot of borders will be connected to each other rather than separated by water. There will be a lot of wars fought because of good land. In that piece of land, if you want to create the same pollution we do today, it's gonna be terrible. And the reason is the airflow in Pangaea is extremely slow compared to today's world. If you've seen this video we made 2 months ago, that China is creating jungles and forests inside the desert, but this jungle has made Beijing have dirtier air quality. Why is that? Because it's stopping the airflow from passing by. Beforehand, there was a desert and the air could flow easily, but now it's getting stopped by the trees. We're not trying to say that it's bad replacing desert with forest, but we're just saying Beijing is located in a bad spot. This situation can happen everywhere in Pangaea, and the pollution can stay there for years. 300 million years ago, there were a lot of storms on this piece of land as well, and they were much more violent than today's hurricanes. As you know, the most powerful hurricanes happen in the Atlantic Ocean now, but the hurricanes we have today, compared to the hurricanes on Pangaea, they're pretty much nothing. Scientists and geologists believe that Pangaea separating and creating different continents has slowed down hurricanes by a lot. This is the reason they say the planet is alive and it's usually trying to better itself, but it doesn't always get better. In Pangaea, you really have to say goodbye to farming because the quality of the soil is extremely low. Somewhere they could have good soil, but the weather's bad. Somewhere there's weather is good, but the soil is terrible. Somewhere the weather is good, the soil is good. But once in a while, the hurricanes comes and destroys everything. But let's look at some countries that are located in Pangaea today. We'll start off from the top. This is Russia, that's located in the North Pole, but the Siberian part to be exact. Mongolia, China, and Japan are located on the other side of the globe, and the South Asian countries are located here as well, like Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia. And you could see a tiny piece of India that's still connected here, and it has not connected to the mainland yet. This gulf you're seeing basically makes the Caspian Sea. This piece is one piece of Iran, and on the north of it you have Central Asia like Afghanistan and Tajikistan, and the second piece of Iran is located right here. And Iran is one of the only countries that's cut in 3 pieces on Pangaea. The third piece of Iran is connected to the Arabian Peninsula, and that's connected to the whole African continent. And you could see the entire Middle East right here, even the Persian Gulf, but right here is extremely narrow. You could say India is extremely lucky. If it was actually here, it would be like Antarctica now, and Australia is east of Antarctica. As you can see, these are all connected. India and Madagascar are neighbors. The US is connected to Morocco. You can drive to Portugal from Canada, and you could drive from Florida to Uruguay. After millions of years, this piece of land continues to change, and eventually we get to today's Earth. But the change has not stopped. It's just we can't see the movement. The human life is extremely short, and from the other side, the planet's life is extremely long. This is the most advanced fighter jet in the world, and we've made a video on it on our channel. Since this is the most advanced fighter jet we can find right now, what would happen if we take it back to World War I? Let's go and find out. We're not here to tell you about the specifications of the F-22 because we've explained that already. But all we have to say is that the F-22 was exclusively designed to be better than any other Russian aircraft. But let's enter the time machine and go back to the year 1917 in Europe. First of all, the F-22 looks a certain way that people back then can't even imagine. The sound that it produces must be terrifying for the soldiers in the battlefield. The thing that will most likely happen is the people in 1917 will probably think this is some type of UFO from outer space, because no country at that time has the technology to produce something like this. If we want to compare the F-22 to the best fighters back then, it's not even comparable. It's like comparing an AK-47 to a sword. The best fighter in World War I is this, the Fokker D-7. In World War I, this was the most successful plane, and you can't compare it to any other fighter back then. The Fokker D-7 only flew for 6 months in World War I, but in this very short period of time, it killed 565 planes with success. A lot of historians believe that if the German army had access to this plane from the beginning, the result of the war would be very different, and Germany would most likely not be defeated. When this fighter was ready, it was already too late. But in that very short period of time, it showed why it was the best fighter in World War I, and that is why it's named the best fighter in World War I. You could kind of compare this to Messerschmitt 262 from World War II. That was the best fighter jet in World War II. This plane also got to the war very late, and if you want to see the complete video about it, we've made it before. But let's get back to the F-22. Anything we explained about the Fokker D-7, the D-7 is pretty much like a pile of junk, and it belongs in the trash can. Let's see how the F-22 will perform in World War I. Unfortunately, this fighter jet is not going to do much in that war, and it really cannot change the results. But why? It's the most advanced fighter jet in the world. The F-22 is designed to fight modern 21st century fighter jets, not airplanes made 100 years ago. Another reason is that it is the most advanced fighter jet, and that's why each hour it flies is extremely expensive, about $85,000 an hour. The F-22 has one of the most advanced radar systems in the world, but the system is designed for the 21st century, and in 1917 it's considered useless, and it can't even communicate with other aircrafts. Flying this thing for 12 hours will buy you a small apartment in New York or a giant mansion anywhere else. You have to note that when the Pentagon ordered this plane from Lockheed Martin, they basically gave him a blank check, and the plan was, whatever it costs, just do it and make it the best fighter aircraft the world has ever seen. We just need something that will beat any Russian plane out there. When the F-22 was being developed, the Soviet Union was still around, but when it collapsed, they realized that the threat is no longer there, and they lowered the production numbers of the F-22. And that is why we have an extremely advanced aircraft with a lot of problems. Let's get back to World War I to see how we can fight with this. Something important we can't forget is that we need about 20 personnel to go along with the aircraft, and these consist of pilots, engineers, and technicians. If these people aren't there, nobody can fly the F-22. If nobody comes along with the F-22, it's like a very advanced alien dropping off a UFO in the middle of the street and then leaving. For us to figure out how it works, it's gonna take a lifetime. If the people back then even see the engine of this aircraft, their mind will be blown. Once they hear the noise of these aircraft, they might start running away. An idea pops up that if you want to scare the soldiers, Just fly this above them and make all the noise you can. The noise could be scary enough, but at least in 1917, they'll most likely run away, or worst case, they might start shooting at the F-22. The more we look at it, the more we realize that the F-22 is not a good idea for World War I, because the most expensive system on this plane is the anti-radar system, something that doesn't even matter in 1917. The first radar system was designed in 1935, and it was not even close to being as advanced as it is today. Another huge issue is the fuel. The planes back then used regular gasoline, and you can't put it in the F-22 because it's designed to take jet fuel, which is a type of kerosene. And the planes back then were piston engine, and they just took regular gasoline. When fighters take off nowadays, there's usually a duo, but back then, there were tens of airplanes flying at the same time. And if they're confronted with the F-22, they'll most likely start trying to shoot it. The F-22 can maneuver out of the way because it's very advanced, but for how long? Especially when 80 aircrafts are shooting at them simultaneously. Even if it wants to use its missile, it's not going to be that effective. Every day there's being bombs dropped everywhere, and a couple really advanced missile systems from an F-22 is not really going to make a difference. It's weird, isn't it? We have a $220 million aircraft, and it really can't do much in that war. It's like fighting with a bee next to an army of ants. Another huge issue is that the F-22 will have speed problems because the fighters in World War I are extremely slow. Just like we said, the most advanced and fastest aircraft back then was the Fokker D-7, and that only went about 116 miles an hour, and there wasn't just one or two of them. How can the F-22 stay behind them? Because the F-22 cannot slow down that hard. If the F-22 slows down too much, there is a risk of stalling and turning the engine off, and that's why it will have trouble staying behind an aircraft and shooting at it. It is true that the aircrafts back then didn't really have advanced weapon systems, but they had a machine gun up front that had a whole lot of ammo, and it could shoot for a few minutes, while the F-22 has rounds for less than 10 seconds. This technology is amazing for the F-22 when it's confronted with a very advanced fighter, and it could attack from behind, but not a 100-year-old dinosaur flying. We put all this effort in, we made a time machine, we took the F-22 100 years back, but unfortunately we couldn't be successful. It might have been a better idea to take an AK-47 rather than an F-22, because it would have been much more effective in that war. An automatic light assault rifle was not available in 1917, and if the engineers back then got their hands on an AK-47 this early, they could have reverse engineered it and made copies of it. But they couldn't even figure out what the screw of the F-22 is made of. But if we have a time machine like this, we could take an assault rifle anytime in history, and that would change history forever. In your opinion, what would be the coolest year to take the AK-47? Please comment.